Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
All right.
We don't know what happened.
Yeah, so we're back. That was funny. It made me laugh there. I said the CIA took out the stream. So yeah, if you're listening, sorry about that. But the first part of this, I noticed that my mic was muted, although Garrett could hear me. Everybody in the stream or in the recording couldn't. So we're going to kind of like do a soft reset of the podcast here. So you are listening to the Two Dune Men and the Sergeant and the Samurai podcast. It is me and Garrett.
Also known as Samurai of Doom.
Samurai of Doom, yeah. Again, we were saying before.
We had
a good opening conversation, too. Damn it, I'm pissed that we lost it, technically. At least half of it. But the captain's not here. He's on vacation, so we're going to be talking about CIA spying on the Trump campaign and the space nukes. And, you know, damn it, how can we restart our conversation that we already had? It was so good. We were... go ahead.
We did have a good conversation. So basically what Skaggs and I were speaking about was how, you know, we've been speaking about this intelligence agency problem for 8 years, but I mean, you know, recording wise now for at least 4 years on our episodes, so you can go back and look. But we've known about this for a very long time. And like I said earlier, where we got cut off was like, you know, myself and James, you know, sometimes we look like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Charlie in the coffee room, that meme, like, oh, they're all related. They're this, they're that, right? But Skaggs had a very good point is, you know, we were talking about how it's more palatable because now, as Skaggs calls them, the gold standard of journalism, certain journalists that are coming out and they're actually like writing it out in layman's terms and kind of just putting it out there. And I think it, you know, we were talking how it kind of hits more of the middle of the road people. Mm-hmm. It doesn't hit the people that are already all in on it. It doesn't hit the people, the NPCs that are already all out on it and won't even look at new evidence. It's hitting those middle of the road voters, which I think is good, you know, for them to be able to open their eyes and look into. So Skaggs basically just going right into the article. We started reading it, and I think that's kind of where we're gonna pick up.
Yeah, I'll reread it. I was just thinking that, and I you know, this article is by Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, and Alex Gutentag. I was just thinking that, and I don't know if these guys have ever said this, but I forgot who. I was listening to one of these guys I consider like the gold standard of journalists. And like there are good, you know, independent journalists out there still doing shit like this. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they won't vote even, right? Because I forgot who said this, right? But they were like, look, I don't even vote in the elections because like I'm here trying to cover this stuff. I'm trying to do it as best as I can from like an unbiased position. So like if I'm voting or even out there like advocating for one candidate or another, how can my base audience
like discredits them?
Yeah, or like trust me anymore. You know, saying like the person was saying it's every human has some sort of bias internally, right? But he's trying to like do his best to mitigate that and not let that like bleed onto his work in any way whatsoever. So I think there is that's just like one way to do it. I kind of like that, but it's not the only way to do it. But that's a good thing. Yep. So, at least in my opinion, it is.
Yeah, because I'm definitely a little biased. Biden could get fucked.
Yeah, of course. I'm super biased, libertarian, and fuck the government and all that stuff. So
yeah.
All right, so this is in public, and again, it's from Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, and Alex Gutentag. Maybe I'll have an easier time reading it this time and pronouncing United States instead of United States. Yeah. The CIA is fucking with us on all levels, man. Maybe they're using like the Havana syndrome gun on them or something.
You get like a twitch and a stutter.
Yep. All right, so CIA had foreign allies spy on the Trump team, triggering Russia collusion hoax, sources say. Let's skip down to last year. John Durham, a special prosecutor for the Department of Justice, concluded that the Federal Bureau of Investigation should never have opened its investigation of alleged collusion by then-President candidate Donald J. Trump and Russia in late July of 2016. Now, multiple credible sources tell Public and Racket that the United States intelligence community, including the CIA, illegally mobilized foreign intelligence agencies to target Trump advisors long before the summer of 2016. So, I'm remembering what we talked about before. So, I'm going to back up real quick. Again, illegally mobilized foreign intelligence agencies to target Trump advisors long before the summer of 2016. So, this is like before even he's president.
Well, this is what's wild. This is almost 10 years. This is almost a
it's
decade
crazy.
ago.
It's crazy. I was just thinking
Does
about
it
that.
feel
We're
like
almost
that?
at 2025. What a crazy thought. Like,
Yeah,
next year,
it's
2025
almost
is
been a decade that we've been
futuristic
dealing with the
sounding
bullshit.
year. Yep.
I know.
All right. The new information fills many gaps in our understanding of the Russia collusion hoax and supported by testimony already in the public record. Until now, the official story has been that the FBI's investigation began after Australian intelligence officials told U.S. officials that a Trump aide had boasted to an Australian diplomat that Russia had damning material about Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. In truth, the USIC asked the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance to surveil Trump's associates and share the intelligence they acquired with U.S. agencies, say sources close to a House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence investigation. The Five Eyes nations are U.S., U.K., Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. I'm going to stop. This is where we got cut off last time, or where I cut it off, so we can get into this and you guys can actually hear me. I was saying I thought this is so interesting because we've spoken about this before, the Five Eyes, and like it gets into like the conspiracy theory realm where this is almost like a no-no when you even reference the Five Eyes thing. But this is how they launder spying on the domestic population, these countries. The CIA in their charter is not allowed to necessarily operate.
They're not allowed to
domestically.
operate on U.S. soil.
So how do they go about doing things like that when obviously we've covered this? They want to. They use the other English-speaking countries in the world and use their intelligence agencies to then spy on Americans and do things like this. And this is amazing. This is what we're talking about. Normies are now going to see this. Maybe this is the first time some of them will ever have
even heard
of the Five Eyes or entertain this.
Say.
This is the Overton window shifting.
So much.
Yeah, go ahead. What were we saying?
Well, that's what. Yeah. No, there is a Netflix special on this where like the U.S. is going to Australia, and it's really based in Australia and like their intelligence agency and how they work with the U.S. and all this other stuff. But the other wild thing is if you look at this Five Eyes, these are also 5 of the countries that had the worst COVID lockdowns and the worst COVID mandates out there. So they were working in unison, not only on spying and trying to overthrow election, everything else. But then they were also part of all the disinformation campaigns that were put out there for everything else. So as we could say, like we've said it forever, that they're all connected, they're all connected, they're all connected. This is just a big, like you said, spotlight on what has absolutely been going on for now, just that we've been talking about almost a decade.
Yeah. Not to get too much off topic or into this, but what do you think it is about the Five Eyes that kind of unites these 5 countries together? Do you think it is just the fact that they're all English-speaking countries, or do you think there's more to it, that they seem to be so aligned in this regard of intelligence agencies?
Technically, I could be wrong, so somebody can go in the comments and say, but I think they're all under the rule of the king.
Yeah, I was thinking England. Maybe it has something to do with that, or formally at least under the rule of the.
Canada is still really ruled by the king. You can go deep into the U.S. where the king still has rights to our lands in the United States. That's a wild thing that you guys can go chase. Me and Skaggs have gone back and forth over this. But you got the UK, you got Australia, which was the prison for the UK, and New Zealand's right off, right around there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much all interconnected. So I don't know if that, that seems like a pretty significant part, that pretty much they're all cousins, right?
There's other countries that are too, though. Again, I don't want to go too down. Like, what about India? Like they were ruled by the king and they speak English there for the most part, or Pakistan, or there's plenty of other countries. I don't know. That might be a topic for a whole episode one day.
Yeah, that is a topic for a whole episode, I would say. But that, that's my opinion on that. Plus, they're all the English people. Plus, I think they have a lot of, the UK is the banking arm of the world. Canada is our neighbor. Australia, we can put people far enough away where nobody will hear from them again. Same thing in New Zealand. They're in the middle of the ocean. So, what better places for CIA black sites?
Yeah, there's that.
And to do those type of operations,
base, like at the dead center of Australia, too. And I've looked into that one, and it's like dead center in Australia, and it's like an American spy base in conjunction with the Australian authorities, and it's like strategically placed because it's at the center. So any like ships, on the coast who are trying to like pick up spy signals, it's pretty far.
Can't
They really
reach it.
can't. Also,
Yep.
like the latitude, longitude that it sits on, it can pick up certain sort of satellites that are like also traversing over China and things like that. So there's a lot of spy work going on.
It's a lot of, I guess it's
yeah.
a strategic area for them to be able to operate from.
It is, yeah. All right, let me finish off the article here, and then we'll kind of
Go.
get into. So, after public and racket had been told that President Barack Obama's CIA director John Brennan had identified 26 Trump associates for the Five Eyes to target, a source confirmed that the IC had identified them as people to bump, or make contact with, or manipulate. They were targets of our own IC and law enforcement, targets for collection and misinformation. Unknown details about the FBI's investigation of the Trump campaign and raw intelligence related to the IC's surveillance of the Trump campaign are a 10-inch binder that Trump ordered to be declassified at the very end of his term, sources told Public and Racket. If the top secret documents exist proving these charges, they're potentially proof that multiple U.S. intelligence officials broke laws against spying and election interference. Wow.
Well, listen, what do you think they were raiding this house for?
That's what I was thinking. It was in the back of my head as I was reading that. Yeah.
Like, did he take it and they're trying to find it? Because what has he said from day one?
It's rigged.
We have it all.
Mm.
He says it all the time. We have it all. We have all the information. I can prove everything. We have it all. What more can I tell you? We have it all. And it will come out. This is the other thing. Earlier in that article, it says this is all public record. So this has been public record for a long time. It's just that they've buried it so deep that it's taken 8 years to see the light.
Yeah.
Even with all the coverage, even with all the fake impeachments, even with all the false testimony, even with all these guys getting caught of lying in jail and this and that and all that other stuff, now you're seeing it laid out.
What's, and again, just like what's shockingly missing from any of this is any actual Russian connection. There's none.
How dare you say that, you Putin pundit?
And, this is a legit creation of the intelligence agencies. Again, like we know this. This is like, I've always said, like, this shit is boring to me because, like, it's obvious. I know. And I hate, like, even talking about it, the Trump stuff, because it's like, yep, it's he got framed. Yeah. It's boring. But
yeah, exactly. So, I know at this point, because we've been yapping about it for so long, but like we have to do our due diligence to get the middle of the field or, whatever, to see that that it is not bullshit. Just like the Hunter Biden laptop that was told that swayed the election. That was told that 97,000 CIA and former intelligence said has all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. So, but this is the other thing too. So the Russian hoax for Trump. Then you have the Biden hoax for the Russian disinformation. Notice how they planted Russia in your head 10 years ago.
Yes.
Right? Because they were already going down the road. What are we doing? Funding a war against Russia. Russia. Not to sound like Donnie T, but like it is. Like if you could just broaden your scale and open your eyes a little bit more, they've been playing you for a fool since 2015.
So here's how here's an example of how that's played out on to normal people. Think about how so many leftists, Democrats, liberals blindly support the war in Ukraine and blindly Ukraine. Why? It's because because you're right. In 2016, this idea of, before that, they didn't give a fuck about Russia at all. Right. But now, back then, almost 10 years ago, 2016, like this idea of Russia colluding and putting Trump, their main enemy, in power in America was like planted in their head. And over the years, it was like coaxed and reinforced and massaged and reinforced in their minds. Right. Then a war breaks out. Then a war breaks out in the region between the two things. And again, here comes the machine. Again, Ukraine is the good guy. So it's all
Space nukes.
Yes, which we're going to get into after this. It's all
I know.
interrelated. I always like to put myself in the other guy's shoes. Like, don't you think Vladimir Putin knows this? If again, disclaimer, not a good guy, right?
I know.
Former KGB and all this stuff, but he's smart. I think the interview that we covered last week proves that he's smart. So if he's smart enough to understand 1,200 years of history and lie about a couple other things, he's smart enough to know that this is bullshit. He also knows because he didn't do it. If he didn't actually do it, he knows he didn't actually do it, right? Like, I know what I did and didn't do. I could lie about these things, sure, but I do know about what I did and didn't do. So when he's seeing all of this happen for the past 8 years, he's thinking, holy shit, man, they are on another level of trying to, pinning us as the bad guy and the enemy.
And also being the head of the KGB. That's the Russian CIA.
Yes. And he's in this world.
He
right, but
knows how it works.
Just think about it, folks, from his point of view. He knows he didn't do this, again, and he's seeing this happen over the years, and he's seeing man, they really have their a target on me right now. And let's just think about historically the past 20 years. What has America done? Targeted dictators, took them out, overthrew them, killed them. Saddam being hung, Gaddafi getting a knife stuck up his ass, right? All these revolutions and things like this. Putin he's literally thinking they're coming for me next. Right, I have to do something and protect my country and my own throne here and all this shit. So
why
it's
do you
all
think they're
interrelated.
coming for him so hard?
I think they want to. I really do think that it comes down to he can't be controlled kind of by the globalist cabal of people that are in charge. Yes, and again, this doesn't mean he's a good guy. He's a dictator. He's not great, but he can't be controlled in that regard by that group of people. So they'd rather just get him out of the way and carve up. It's a giant nation, right? Giant. Mm-hmm. They'd rather carve it up into separate little tinier countries, and then resources could be peeled off, and they could then turn their attention later on in future years towards China and trying to finish that off and have a global hegemony over the whole world. And if you think I'm crazy, this is all the neocon plan in the long term. I think it's called the Project for a New American Century. They're just like a domino in the way, right? And if they're not going to get a person in charge over there who's going to play ball with them, then God damn it, then they'll have to remove them somehow on some long-term plan. It's not easy, right? Because at the end of the day, whoever holds the most guns or holds guns or weapons, is it's inherent to protecting yourself. We've talked about this a million times, right? And they got big guns, right? Russia, they got nukes, they got a pretty powerful military, and they have a culture of we're not going to do what the West wants to do. So for now, they're holding on, and they're trying to do something about it. So I think that's just what it comes down to at the end of the day. What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah. You always have a mystical answer, so.
I do. I still kind of do, I think. That's funny. I think even though, like you said, disclaimer, we know he's not a good guy. He was the head of the Russian CIA, okay? We understand that. But we're just saying perspective, right? I think he doesn't give into the LGBTQ stuff. They don't like that. That's a big push on control and how to do everything else. I think he's a very religious man. They want to kill all religion and make a one world religion. I think he fights back against that. I know he definitely doesn't want a central bank digital currency because that would affect his wealth. So he wants to have that free market and be able to, have their own money and everything else because he knows that would dominate over his thing. When you get into the dictators, most of the dictators don't want this global overhaul that we're seeing because it wouldn't allow them to live their lives as kings where they are, right? So that's why they almost fight side and side with capitalists in a way, even though they might be socialist and communist. Those guys at the top are really capitalists just for themselves, though. Not for their country, but for themselves. They want the most money. Yes, So I think that in that aspect, there is some common with the top of theirs. They don't want the money control. They don't want the regulations. They want it, but they want to control it. They don't want somebody above them controlling it. So I think it's just I've said it before, It's like gangs in New York. They're all just different sets. You know, like it's us. We're the bullies on the block over here in Brooklyn. They're the bullies on the block in the Bronx. They're the bullies on the block in Staten Island. Oh, we got the Sopranos over in New Jersey. You know, like I think it's really just overlords on a grand scale.
Yeah. It's gangs, right? The state is
Yeah,
the
it's just
gang who
gangs.
won, as Murray Rothbard
Yes,
would
we
say,
just
right?
want to be cooler,
Yeah,
gang.
yeah, and it's all, or as I've said before, like it's like different groups of bad guys, and they all have competing interests. And even within like our own structure of the regime, there's little like alliances
And
and
I know
groups
we
of
always
bad
say
guys within there as
yes,
well,
and I
trying to
know
like
we
vie
always
for
say,
the throne.
but I mean, I know we always say bad guys, right? But like, doesn't mean that bad guys can't fight for the right things at times in their thing, right? So you know, with Trump, you might not like all his things and might think he's a bad guy, but he did a lot of good for the American people in certain areas, right? But then you can even go back, you know, Alexander the Great was the bad guy to all the people that he conquered, but he also created like some of the best culture and
Sure.
everything else and spread, you know, democracy and everything else throughout all the lands. Genghis Khan changed the fucking carbon footprint of the world, but we wouldn't have half the stuff that we have without him being able to do that and basically being Alexander the Great coming from that end too,
Mhm.
right? So you see these guys that have these giant visions and you know they were bad guys to everybody that they slaughtered and killed, but they were also heroes to everybody that followed them.
Sure, of course, yeah.
So
Historically, they definitely
throughout
were. Yeah.
history, there's going to be some. I'm sure everybody liked Napoleon that was running shit with him. I'm sure everybody liked Hitler that was running shit with him. I'm
Right.
sure
I think you're a
everybody liked.
hero. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So
You
I
got to
think
also
it's
remember, like,
perspective
you know, history, as they say, is written by the victor,
by the
right? So,
victors. So that's the other
yeah,
thing because there's a lot of stuff that the victors could have wrote out that they were just slaughtering and killing and doing things that like
sure.
we would be like, oh my god, oh my god. I mean,
You seen
our country's guilty of it as
Yep,
well.
I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I love the movie Troy. I don't know if you've ever seen that with
Love
Brad
it.
Pitt.
Great
Love
movie.
fucking great movie, right?
Great movie.
And King Agamemnon, when he's like mad at Achilles, he's like, "Listen, if
Mhm.
you don't do what I want you to do," he's like, "I will carve my name in every rock in Greece, and I'll smash every statue and tribute to Achilles. No one will remember your name." He's like, because it's kings who are remembered, or whatever. He says like that. That quote, that line, fucking stood out in my brain when I heard that.
So
And
true though.
it is true. It is true. But who does history remember today? Does it remember Agamemnon or does it remember Achilles?
No,
Remembers Achilles,
remembers Achilles,
right? Because
but
yeah, it just in
he
so
fought for him.
yes, he did. But
So
I guess
that
you could say
he
Achilles
bent
was
the
the
knee there.
what's that?
He kind of bent the knee there, being like, "All right, I'm going to show up and go out on my horse," but he ended up dying anyway. So then he, I guess, because he showed up for him, he allowed his legacy to continue. Because even after that, he could have just said "fuck it" and wiped out all the statues.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he
They
killed
wouldn't
him,
know.
right? Didn't
Well,
he kills him at the end of the story. Achilles kills Agamemnon, right? I don't know if that's like true. I don't know if that aspect of the
yeah, I
movie
don't
is
know.
true. It's
I don't
hard
know
to, yeah, I
historically
don't know. I'm not
correct.
that, yeah. But you're making a good point, man. I don't think that like, you know, who's good and who's bad. Like people that try to become leaders or kings, let's say, for example, like there can be just kings. Like it's not impossible. That's not what I'm saying. I think like
But
one of
it's
the reasons.
also not realistic, Skaggs. I mean, we all deal with problems in our daily lives. Are we the epitome of virtue in every aspect of our lives at all time? I mean, I think that's a big problem that we have too. Is as simple layman's terms for most of us, we put the pussy on the pedestal too much. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
The
we put
pussy
these
being what in this
politicians.
regard? The
The
politicians?
politicians, yes. So you put them on this thing, and they're just like you said. Like I think I might have even heard you like Vladimir Putin is just a human. He probably shits in the morning and don't smell good, and he puts one pant leg out on time, unless he's a weirdo and he could jump into him at the same time, right?
Right.
But like, I mean, I know he's got some cool judo moves, but you know, like I think that's the problem is everybody puts these people on this virtuous level. And I mean, definitely in American politics, you can see that you're a politician, you're not virtuous. You're usually the slime,
Yes.
especially nowadays. So we keep going, oh, well, we have these standards for these people. And some of these standards are even like you could have a good politician, but you know, you're setting these what's the word I'm looking for? You're setting these unobtainable standards on human beings, because at the end of the day, we're all sinners, right? Not to get religious or anything, but we're all imperfect. Now, do I try to be my best to do everything I can the best way I can? Yes. But do I fall and stumble? Yes. That doesn't mean that the good I did before shouldn't not count.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? Unless you do something totally atrocious where you do kind of your legacy gets wiped. But I mean, it's like the rinky dink shit that doesn't matter. Like, I mean, for the most part, and I know this might sound horrible, but like, I don't care if the guy or the lady cheats on their husband if they're doing good policy, like their personal life on that aspect. Like, yes, but now do I care if they're pushing, I am the Christian virtue of everything? Yes, then you're a hypocrite. But if you just walk out and you're like, I slang dick, man, that's what I do. and I get shit done. Like Donnie T, like he was a Playboy billionaire. I'm just using him as an example. Like, he's like, I'm not here. Like, I'm not the virtuous of all virtues, like of the religion and this and that, but like I get shit done. And sometimes you need those gangsters to get shit done.
Yeah. I don't think it's.
I'm not saying him and I'm just saying overall
as a concept. I don't see it as putting the pussy up on the pet. I didn't have coffee today. I think that's what it is. The first day I haven't had coffee today for the first time in a long time. I was too busy to
get
coffee
headache?
for some reason. No headache. But I've
that's
noticed
good.
I'm a little off. So I was, after the morning pass on having a coffee, I'm like, hey, let me go the whole day without a coffee today, see what happens. So that could be it. Why my fucking tongue is tied here. But I don't see it as a matter of like putting the pussy up on a pedestal. At least that's not what I'm doing. The reason why I've become an anarchist.
I'm not saying you, but I'm saying
sure. The reason why I've become an anarchist is because I understand now what it really is. Like, I get it. I get what the nature of the state is and politics and all these things. What I'm usually doing is I'm holding them to the standard of things that they say. So, like, if you go up there and you hold your hand on the Constitution, that means that you see that as some sort of, like, religious document, right, of foundational principles and things like that. All right, I'm going to hold you to that fucking standard because that's what you're telling me.
And I get it.
Right. And
well, that's why I think they need to start presenting a more realistic view of themselves. They're trying to push out the squeaky clean, the this, the that, because that's what people think that it should be. I mean, what was one of the biggest gripes between Obama and Trump, right?
Obama was so presidential, right?
Silver tongue lies.
Yeah.
They'd rather have a silver tongue liar than a blunt truth.
Right.
Me, I like the blunt truth. You like the blunt truth. They didn't like the way he sound. He was mean. He doesn't sound presidential. I go, cool. So sounding presidential means being lied to your face with a smile.
Yes.
And you're okay with that because they sounded better.
While he drone strikes American citizens at weddings. That's the way I look at these things. Like, there's levels to how evil or bad people could be. If you cheat on your wife and you're now a politician or something, I don't really give a shit either, right? Like, you're not. I view it like, if you're going to run for office and then be in this position of ruling over everyone, then damn it, you should be held to a higher standard, not in your own personal life, but in what you do in the role. Because now, like, that's not important. What you cheating on your wife isn't important, but like the foreign policy you have, like if you're gonna create a war or drone strike and kill people or drop bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, these are now decisions that are above your normal, like, average day decision of like, being a scumbag to a friend or going through a red light or whatever. Like, we're now on another realm of decision making, and it's more serious than your day to day. So that's the way at least I look at it. Like, yes, I don't give a fuck about, like, Trump talking mean to people, right? I don't care. Know. Like, what is all right? He talked mean to people, right? But he didn't overthrow a government, which led to the whole area being destabilized and open a slave trade market taking place after, and literally
spy on his presidential campaign or candidates and try to throw him in jail and everything else. Like, that's the other side, kids.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's both sides. We know it's both sides working together because they are the same side, and they make you want to think that there's teams.
It's like priorities, folks. Priorities. I think a lot of people don't. We're working on it, and things are getting better as we're going to get to the next story here. I think segment. I think it was a white pill in of itself, but like priorities, like keep your eye on the prize of what's actually important and what's not. If you are one of those people who still thinks that like Trump possibly cheating on his past wife is important, but you know Joe Biden's policy of getting 200,000 Ukrainians killed the past 2 years isn't, you need like a reality check or a priority check, perhaps.
Well, and I agree with you. And I think a good way is to start filtering that out. And I mean, we're guilty of it sometimes, but for the most part, we try to think of everything logically and try to break it down like that. And a lot of times you hear a lot of people go, yeah, but I feel. Doesn't fucking matter what you feel. Your feelings aren't reality sometimes. Oh. Yes, they are feelings, and they should be. You can have them. I'm not saying that. You know, you can have your feelings, you can have your perspectives, but like, you got to logically think stuff sometimes and throw your feelings out away, because sometimes my feelings will make me make a bad decision.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're feeling angry or you're feeling used or you're feeling this. And sometimes you got to take the feelings out and look at the bigger picture. And you're like, oh, well, if I didn't feel this way, this is actually the smarter move.
Right. It's called being an
adult. I
adult.
have to bite the bullet on it. Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's called being an adult. But we know a lot of adults that act like children.
Yes. Namely, the majority of the people who are in charge in the government.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. You want to segue into this bad boy?
Let's do it. These are interrelated topics here, and we'll give our thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna.
Well, no, we're just leading the timeline, Skags.
We are, yeah.
We started in 2014 with the Russia, and then into the Russia, and then into the Russia.
Yeah, more
now
Russia
this
here.
is 12 of Russia proper.
Okay, so from ABC News, GOP warning of national security threat is about Russia wanting nuclear weapons in space. Sources. President Joe Biden's national security advisor and leading lawmakers on Capitol Hill sought to allay public concerns on Wednesday after the House Intelligence Committee chairman warned of a national security threat related to a destabilizing foreign military capability, so serious that Biden should declassify all information about it. Two sources familiar with the deliberations on Capitol Hill said the intelligence has to do with Russia wanting to put a nuclear weapon into space. This would not be to drop a nuclear weapon onto Earth, but rather to possibly use against satellites. Still, it's very concerning and very sensitive, said one source, calling it a big deal. While not addressing this subject directly, multiple members of Congress quickly described the issue as serious without stoking public alarm. We're going to work together to address this matter, as we do with all sensitive matters that are classified, House Speaker Mike Johnson told reporters at the Capitol on Wednesday afternoon. But we want to assure everyone that steady hands are at the wheel, he said.
Buddy, sure.
I'm going to stop reading there, and we could get a little bit into it.
Why, you want to talk about your rep from Connecticut? What's up, brah?
Which one?
I don't know. He was right. It was right. It said rep from Connecticut, blah, 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 blah.
Jim Himes, a Connecticut Democrat and ranking member on the House Intelligence Committee, echoed that in his own statement, calling the warning significant, but not a cause for panic. So this is kind of a microcosm of what we were saying before, how there's like these competing groups of bad guys, even within the government itself. And I think this is exactly what we're seeing kind of play out here. Before I forget, going back to what we were just talking about, like the concept of you're in government or you're in a position of authority, and you're like, these sorts of things are like decisions on another level. And this is the way I view them as someone who thinks that, like, again, if you're going to be in that seat, then you have like a certain responsibility to conduct yourself in a certain way and do things the right way.
Yes.
What you essentially had here happen was a person who's in a very important seat in the Intelligence Committee gaslight the public, and you could literally almost cause a panic by saying there's a national security threat that could destabilize the country. Like now again, like most people are disconnected, but I read that and I'm like, yeah, like that's pretty serious. That's a serious charge. That's a serious how it could destabilize the country. That means like chaos. That everything could fall apart. Now, for you to make that statement or accusation, there better be something like immediately for you to come out and say that now. But why did he do this?
There's a nuke headed to the U.S.
Like there should be like a nuke
North
in
America
the air.
in 17 minutes.
Yes, like that's what I'm talking about. That's or like, hey,
all fucked.
Right, or like, hey, Al Qaeda hijacked the planes and they're in the sky right now. We can't stop them. We know where they're at, and they're gonna crash in your buildings or something like that. Like that's what I'm talking about.
They set that up too.
I know. That's besides the point. What I'm saying is, like, if you make this point, that's the level of like how important it should be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
What really happened here is that this was like a trick to try and put pressure on other congressmen, like to use leverage to get them to pass the $95 billion foreign aid bill. That's I think it's like $60 billion of it's going to Ukraine, $20 billion to Israel, and then the rest
talking
to
about
Taiwan.
billions too, people, not millions.
Billions, right? So
billions. They're just handing out dildos.
This is where we're at now. This is the level where we're at. Well, they will fake a national security threat that could literally cause mass people to panic in order to pass a bill.
And not even for the American people.
Right, on top of that.
On top of this is not even for the American people. It is for our grandchildren to pay this debt. And they lied to all of us and tried to throw everybody in the pack to strong arm the other people that are somewhat standing their ground, saying, get fucked. We've already given them enough money. Like, we will never be able to pay this money back. Why are they handing it out so freely? That's what scares me, is how easily they're handing out billions, not millions, billions.
And
I don't think, and they're just like, boom. So one or two of the things is happening. For them to push that hard, that money's got to be coming back to them somehow. Second of all, for the amount of money that they are throwing out at certain things, and they know it is unfathomable. No country's ever had this much debt ever, I think, in the course of humanity. There's going to be a big financial switch that they're planning to do, whether it's the currency, whether it's something else going on behind the scenes. I've talked about it on my podcast a couple times. Don't want to get into that. But, I mean, it's just crazy how easily and how scary it is for these people to just play with people's lives that easily.
Yeah, I think there's some aspect of that where, like, we look at this and we see it as untenable. Like, eventually the shoes, was it say like shoes gonna drop or whatever from their foot?
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you're in that sort of position, you get access to like the first dollar printed. So they might be printing $90 trillion and handing it off to something. They're going to get that money. They're going to use it to then buy goods. Let's put it this way. Like let's just keep it very simple.
Oh,
they're going to print a bunch of money.
They're going to print they're going to print estate.
Yes, exactly. Or like bunkers and guns and infrastructure personally that they'll have. And yes, like inflation will set in, the dollar will devalue. This will harm the economy later on, which will harm them as well. But they already have purchased infrastructure and stockpiled things that benefit them, so they'll be okay. They don't give a shit. Who it really hurts the most.
They are so disconnected from the real world. It's insane. It's like celebrities. They are so insulated by themselves. They don't even understand what the real world is anymore because it's not the real world. So for them, though, that's what's scary too, is that they are so insulated. They're so disconnected from everyday people. But like you also said, the weird thing is they are so privy to firsthand information. They know whatever they tell us is all bullshit, and they have the real information. So they just live their lives however they want because they know they'll be okay because they have the firsthand information. It's fucking wild, huh?
Yeah. And again, they get access to when the dollars are printed, they get access to the dollar first before they hit the market and devalue the currency and all these things, and that's how they capitalize. So another interesting thing here. Let's dig a little bit more into this topic.
Your space nukes?
Yeah, the space nukes. This is a GOP.
Do you need a nuke though? Real quick.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Okay.
So yes, we will. Don't worry. I got you here, so we're getting into all that stuff. Don't you worry, buddy.
Yeah.
So it's Mike Turner who kind of sounded the alarm here. What was Mike Turner doing recently? Well, it turns out last week he was in Ukraine, in Kyiv, meeting with fucking Zelensky. Here he is in Ukraine talking about the war.
The United States fully supports this funding, and that as legislators, we support it, and we believe that there's overwhelming support in the House and the Senate, and this will get done. It includes a package that provides the weapon systems that Ukraine has indicated that they need. Also, I know this group and others in the House and the Senate are very big proponents for longer range weapons being provided to Ukraine because of the needs on the battlefield that we're seeing evolve.
Longer range weapons provided to Ukraine. What does longer range weapons means, it means that Ukraine has a capability to strike deep into Russia directly on Russian soil and hit Moscow and all these other places. Escalation, more war, threaten the Russians more, antagonize things further. Again, Putin's seeing this, right, and all this stuff. So it's crazy.
I hate these people.
Next thing, so today, if you think we're fucking conspiracy theorists for saying that it's like a trick where they're trying to use this as like a leverage, here is Rep. Andy Ogles, a Republican from Tennessee. He sent a letter demanding an investigation of Intel Chair Mike Turner. So a Republican demanding an investigation of another Republican. Things are getting spicy.
Yep.
For manipulating public opinion to arm Ukraine and pacifies a bill. And he says in the letter, this is to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. He says, "Dear Speaker Johnson, February 14th at approximately blah, 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 Chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee Intelligence revealed to the American people an imminent and perhaps existential threat to the United States of America." I think that's a good way to put it. An existential threat, something that could end the country as we know it. Yeah. The revelation by the chairman was done with reckless disregard of the implications and consequences said information would have on geopolitics, domestic and foreign markets, or the well-being and psyche of the American people. In hindsight, it has become clear that the intent was not to ensure the safety of our homeland and the American people, but rather to ensure additional funding for Ukraine and passage of an unreformed Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA Act. The act constituted poor judgment, at a minimum, and a complete breach of trust influenced by the pursuit of political agenda at a maximum. So that's kind of like a really fancy way of saying kind of what I said before. They were using the threat of Russian nukes in space to try and push legislation. An existential threat. You might die right now if we don't support this bill.
If we don't,
and they made it up.
If we don't embezzle more money from you.
Yes, exactly. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? They made it up. I don't even know if they made it up or not. Maybe Russia is planning on putting nukes in space. We could maybe get into that now. I think the
space lasers,
yeah, right. The
They've
space
been talking
lasers
about this since the Reagan era, Star Wars.
So
the Star Wars project.
Look, man, let me just start here.
You know about that, Skaggers?
Yes, I know all about it. We'll get into it.
Yes,
nukes already go into space, right? This is where we could get interesting with you because I know you can say space is fake or something, right? An intercontinental ballistic missile, an ICBM. What the fuck does that mean? Intercontinental. How does that work? They launch up like rockets up into space. Then they orbit the Earth, and that's how they get to their target. They are like, outside the realm of being shot down because of how they're delivered. So nukes already
outer space.
What's that?
Space or outer space? Because technically everything around us is space.
Outer space. They go into outer space.
I just want to make it clear.
They go into outer space and into orbit around the Earth. They orbit, and that's how they get to their. That's how. And then they come back down and hit their. That's how they hit their target. There's that. There's our nuclear submarines, and then there's the old-fashioned way on like the B-2 bombers or whatever. So nukes already go into space. Number one. Number two. I'm looking at this from like a very practical point of view. They're saying that now again, it could be real, right? It could be real. I'm not saying that it's even not real. It could be that Russia is developing something like this, but they're claiming that Russia is putting nukes in space in order to target other satellites. Okay, but from what I'm told of space, why would you need a nuclear weapon to take out a satellite in space? Why not put
my question? Wouldn't a Tomahawk do it?
Or like a nudge from something else. It's in space, right? Like
a nudge.
Just
so nudge it off course.
Yes, you could nudge one of like you could send a drone and nudge another satellite out. Like, why would you use a nuke? It seems like such overkill to take out a satellite in space. Go ahead, you have the floor. Tell me.
But what happens if there is no space and that's why they can't nudge it and they have to shoot it? Maybe they're letting us know something we don't know about.
Maybe, man. Look, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, look,
Garrett
we're talking about fucking. I didn't think Garrett might be right, but I'm like, we're talking. I'm like, we're now talking about fucking space nukes, right? So yeah, how far off are we from the shit that Garrett talks about with space lasers? We're not that far off. We're pretty close now.
We're really not that.
It's not even me talking about it. It's the fucking Congress is talking about it, right? So I don't know, man. It just
I know it gets you riled up though, right? Like it really does. Like, I mean, Tesla space lasers, like they've been talking about this shit forever,
yep,
forever.
yep.
And now they're using it on the world stage to extort more money from the American people. You gotta be scared of aliens, gotta be
Yeah.
scared of space lasers, gotta be scared of space nukes. Russia's gonna do it to you.
Yep. So a
Be
couple
the
couple things
Russian.
I'm remembering, right? Like while I was reading all this stuff, I was having two emotional reactions.
Mhm.
One was I was angry, right? Because I'm like they're literally using kind of like
Gaslighting everybody.
they're using like a damn it, like almost like a sacrilegious way of try and get some policy passed.
Yeah.
And then I was also laughing because of this. It's like it's so
Mhm.
far fetched. Space nukes. There was that movie Space Cowboys, which I used for the cover of this, where they go into
Yes.
disarm the fucking nuke, the old CCP nuke thing.
No,
like,
they go to use the nuke. I think.
yeah.
Don't they go to use the nuke on a meteor or something?
No, I think it was
that's
what was it like damn it, who was it? Was it Tommy Lee or I forget who they send up like they send them up.
Oh, the
You know what I'm
four
talking about?
old
Space
men,
Cowboys, the
yes.
four old men. They send them up there to
I was
disarm.
thinking of,
They tell them it's another mission. Actually, it's kind of fucking realistic. They tell them it's a different mission that they're going on, and then they end up getting up there, and it's like it's an old Soviet weapon that's been armed by accident, and the Russians told us about it, and now we got to send you up here to disarm it or whatever. And then is it Tommy Lee Jones? He fucking rides it off into the sunset to blow it up and
Yes, he
save the
does.
Earth or whatever. Like they literally stole the fucking plot of the movie. Here for this thing.
Dude, listen, it's all played out, and they've been telling you and laying the groundwork forever through all the media, all the Hollywood. I mean, think about it. There's been no new movies or anything made. Everything's a remake, right? And a lot of stuff that has been made already, now we're seeing come into real life theater because it's already been conditioned into us to be like, that's not that far off. Space Cowboys, right? There could be this. There's Space Force. But this is the other thing. Cap talks about it all the time. Space Force, right?
Right. I was thinking about that too. Sure. We talked about this when we were all here with everybody, remember? We were talking about Space
this
Force.
This is what I'm saying. So this stuff's happening. Now, before I know I'm a little bit on a time crunch, but
no, it's okay. I'm writing down a note
note.
so I don't forget something. Go ahead.
Okay, but I wanted to touch a little bit on what Iran said today about one
Okay.
of those special little continents that me and Cap like to talk about.
Then
that you talk
we'll-
shit on.
Well, that'll be our last thing. But before we get to that, I just want
That's our final thought.
Yes, the other observation I made from this whole scenario. Now, I'm talking about at least on social media and on Twitter. No one believed this. No one.
That's
and I mean
winning,
no
right?
one. I mean no one. It was like beyond. It was like a bipartisan issue where no one believed this. Right? When I'm
Like
talking about
everybody
like
was like, yeah, right, buddy.
shit libs
Sure, buddy.
didn't believe this. You know what I mean? So that's a white pill right there. That's how
That
far
is-
they've pressed the envelope now, where they come out with something like this, and like majority of people are just like, "Oh,
Shut up.
no,
We don't want to spend the money."
Yeah. So I just
You know?
thought that was an interesting observation. That was a white pill. I loved the idea of that. I love the idea of that. Just thinking back to history, the Soviet Union when it was at its end, no one believed anything that they had the central government had to say anymore, and it was kind of like this. People would laugh it off and be like, "Get the fuck out of here."
I know.
So are we at that point or not? Are we reaching that point? It's interesting.
Well, kind of like we were saying. I think it might have got cut off and we reset it, but this is the year of confirmation, and we've talked about this on other episodes. Like it's confirming stuff that we've been talking about for a decade plus, but the time is traveling at a weird speed, and there is a lot of things. I mean, you're getting, I said this years ago, you're getting years worth of news cycles in 1 week.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to the point where we're getting years worth of news cycles in 1 day.
Yes.
It's impossible to keep up with the bombardment of information, all the things. Now, I've said to myself, and I think me and you have had this conversation before, is it's just because we're so much more aware of what's going around us. But that's also something that's, I think, everybody's hitting a new vibration where they're more aware of the bullshit. I mean, just think about from 2020 to now, how many more people are hip to the bullshit?
Yeah.
Where like for the first year, we're like, come on, guys, wake up, man, wake up. And then 2 years later, we're like, we're punching less people in the arm, like trying to wake them up. Now it's like, I mean, you can walk into the grocery store and like people are like, you see what happened with Epstein? You see what this and that? And you're like, holy shit. This is real life now.
I think this also
I know.
plays out in the level of ridiculousness of things that they're trying to convince us of. Like you know,
Yeah,
like
but they've been getting
again,
away
like
with
it ain't
bullshit
working no
for so
more. So they're
long.
getting more ridiculous
I know.
with each next thing because they're getting
But
desperate.
that just exposes them more and
I'm
more.
just saying
to,
they're
you
getting
know,
desperate,
us,
in my opinion. They're losing,
which is
I said this
good.
the other
Which is
day.
a good thing.
Yeah,
I know you say it a lot. You're like, they are losing. These little things, these little wins are showing there.
Mhm.
What were we talking about? We talked about Moneyball with this. Like, it's all about the butts, right?
Yeah,
We'll
those
text
bunts,
each
sack
other. We're
bunts,
like,
yes.
it's about the sack butts, baby. You know, like it
Exactly.
is though, and that's
Yep.
the game we're playing on a grand scale.
Yep. All right.
Yep.
We can't talk, me and you, and not reference Antarctica somehow or another. I think we're gonna be due with this topic, with this news coming out today. We're gonna be due for another Antarctica part 2 thing. So
I think so,
take it
too.
away. Take us down to Antarctica. What's going on over there, buddy?
Do you have the thing I sent you?
No,
I
I
have
don't.
it, so we can kind. I can
airdrop
send
it
it
to
to you real
myself.
quick if you have it.
You
got it?
texted it to me earlier today? Let's see.
I think so. Yeah, I'll look through. I might have put it. I don't think I put it in the grouper. I think I put it direct to you for the episode.
Which one are you talking about? You talking about the lady? The Norwegian cruise line?
No, well, there's that.
This, by the way,
No,
folks,
but
we talk so much off podcasts, like it must be buried here in shit,
No,
but
but that's why there was that coming up from Instagram that the Norwegian cruise line about traveling to Antarctica, and they changed the trip and everything. But let me find it here. Did you find it or no?
no, but I'm looking for what I found.
I got you.
So
I'll send it direct right now.
Yeah, I got it. Send it to me. But to set the stage, what we're even talking about here, folks.
Okay.
Yeah, we are talking
Got
about.
So I sent Skags 2 things today because it's like it's an ongoing little joke or ribs that we kind of whack each other with, especially when I hit him with the flat earth shit. Like I'll just send him random shit. He's like, "You're a fucking idiot," you know. So, but I love it. This is like our fun banter during the day, so it's not all political. But so this is political though about Antarctica. So there was a article or a tweet that came out today that Iran literally says. Up there it is. Perfect. Antarctica is ours. Iran's Navy has reportedly claimed ownership of the South Pole, directly challenging global treaties and the Biden administration. Quote, "We have property rights in the South Pole. We plan to raise our flag there and carry out our military and scientific work." Source, Fox, right? Is that all that was?
Yeah,
Because I
that's
can't
it.
scroll on your end. Okay.
I could scroll.
So,
Yeah. There's nothing else.
so
Yeah.
I love that boat meme though. Okay. So, but what I'm saying, right? Me and Cap have talked about this, and we debated you on this, and you're like, you're crazy. And the guy was talking about the laser that can shoot from anywhere, and then Hawaii happens, then Chile happens, which Chile is right next to the South Pole. If you're looking at the the round world map, right? So
Oh no! Now you believe in the round world? Anyway,
no, I'm saying if you look at it, right?
Yes, good.
So I mean, it is technically it's around every country because it goes like this. But anyway, so this is just laying groundwork too, Skags. Think about it. We had that interview that we dissected, and I told you, I'm like, I don't think everything this guy is saying is God's word, but he talked about energy weapons, right? 2 weeks later, fucking Maui gets lit up, right? Then just last week, nobody even knows about Chile. Same thing happened. Burnt to the ground, cars melted, blue shit didn't work, whatever. They're right next to it. Now we have literally the Ayatollah or whoever it is of Iran saying, we have claim to that too. We had a treaty. Nobody should be able to have a military there or anything else, but they know we have a military there. They know we're doing scientific work. So are other countries, as we say, right? What is going on down there? Then on top of that, because we want to get in a fight with Iran too, right? Because they're like Russian allies.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, you could.
So we're that. Then on Instagram, we have this lady going off the whole Norwegian cruise system. People pay a lot of money to go to the bottom of South America and take a cruise into Antarctica and go around there and see all the things because nobody sees they spend a real lot of money. And all of a sudden, they just Norwegian cruise was like, no, get fucked. We're just going to, it's a tour of South America and around the edge. And they're like, nobody got on this for that. We got on here to go to Antarctica. And they're like mutiny on the thing. They're trying to get a hold of the captain. They have safety officers going out. And she's like, listen, everybody's not just going to go have a drink and be happy and everything else. Can you bring it up?
Yeah, let's see.
On the app from South America and Antarctica.
Instagram video.
Yep, go ahead.
Norwegian Star ship is not going to Antarctica. They secretively changed the name of this cruise yesterday on the app from South America and Antarctica to a round trip South America. According to the customer service desk, this decision was made by head office in Miami before we departed, and it was for operational reasons. They refused to explain what those operational reasons are. We know it's not weather. So what is the reason? We started talking to people last night. Everyone was angry. We told people to join us here at 9:30.
Gonna do some live fact checking. How I usually will like refute one of your claims or videos. Let's see. So think of a grand soul. We're going to.
Let's see what
let's see what ABC News has to say about this claim. It says Norwegian cruise line passengers claim Antarctica voyages rerouted.
Oh, I think she's talking about it.
Yeah. Let's see. So it's just referencing the cruise ship was originally stated to travel around South America before heading to Paradise Bay, Antarctica. But after passengers boarded, one traveler said she knows the trip destination changed. So they're kind of just feel like we're being cheated, scammed. So all right. So ABC News here is just kind of like reporting on what the lady was saying.
Angry travelers. Let's see. Well, there's multiple angry travelers, and it's ABC News.
Okay, so fair enough. So that means that at least the video itself is legit in terms of like the cruise line
it's
changing the itinerary.
Fucking Skaggs.
No. You gotta, dude. Like I tell you all the time. I could just make a video about anything, and then it goes viral, and I just made this shit up. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen, but it doesn't mean that it did either. That's always the way I look at it. It looked
like there was different sources and different people complaining about it.
Sure. So what's your theory as to what was going on here?
Everything in the kitchen sink, baby. They're throwing it all at us. They're throwing it all. I'm telling you, man, there's something going on with Antarctica for a long time where everybody was cool and allowed there, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, fuck it, nobody could go there for 100 million years.
So I think that
it's just a block of ice.
First of all, it's Iran, right? So like number one, is this even true?
They're gonna be cold.
Well, hold on. Yeah, they will be cold, right? Is this even true? Or is this from the same people who are telling me that it's Iranian proxies that are targeting every American soldier? Like, can I have some evidence? Like I don't know. I didn't actually hear that from the Ayatollah himself. That came from Fox News. No. You know what I mean? So like, Fox News is part of the regime. Let's be honest with you. So that's my number one skepticism. Number two, I'm thinking back to our Antarctica debate. Iran, admittingly here, would be violating the Antarctic Treaty. That means that the Antarctic Treaty exists, right? And I remember you guys saying like, "Oh, no one ever agrees to anything. How is it that they agreed on this?" And blah blah blah. Well, no, they're going to literally be violating. Yeah, that's what it's saying. That's what it's saying.
Go back to it.
Okay. I don't think that's what this is saying.
Fox?
Sorry, no.
Go back to it, though, because they said that they have claim to it because they are one of the nations. I think it's that.
No, they're not one of the nations.
Iranian Navy has reported claimed ownership of the South Pole, directly challenging global treaties
and the Biden administration.
And the Biden administration.
The global treaty is the Antarctic Treaty.
Rights.
Yeah.
We have property rights in the South Pole.
I like how Iran sounds like libertarians now. We have property rights in the South Pole.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know, but it says right there that they're challenging global treaties. The global treaty.
But maybe they're on that global
they're not.
Treaty.
I don't think they are.
Let's check it.
I did look it up, but let's double check. Is Iran in the Antarctic Treaty? Pretty sure they aren't.
Iran asserts. U.S. State Department responds.
Let's go to the Hindustan Times. They're
I know, I like that.
Fucking.
I love it. Let's go.
Iranian Navy commander's claims of Antarctic Treaty. What is this? No, we don't want to chat. They want to chat with us.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's actually some more information of in depth. Iran's Navy commander, Rear Admiral Shamram Irani, claims of ownership over Antarctica announced in a September broadcast.
This is why it's crazy that it's being released now.
We should have looked more into this. In a September broadcast, endanger the South Pole's continent exclusivity and world security. We have plans to raise our flag there and carry out military and scientific work, declared the Iranian commander. Recent announcement. Let's see. President claim ownership of Antarctica pronounced the threat to the Antarctic Treaty of 1959, signed by 12 original consultative nations. They're not. This isn't going to reference it, but yeah, I remember looking at this when I saw this, and
so
they're not on the list of.
I guarantee that part of the 12 nations is the Five Eyes.
Yeah, probably like Russia, like Norway, a lot of those like Arctic nations.
That's what I don't know. That's why I always say it's smoke and mirrors too. Like we go to space with Russia all the time.
I don't think we are at the moment, but we have in the past.
But like, there's been
together.
multiple times that like we're in conflict with each other, and we're like, you know what, fuck it, we're going to space together.
Yeah, I know, man. This goes back to what we were talking about. Like,
it's stupid, right?
Yeah, it is stupid. Yes, it is stupid, but
well, that's why I'm like, it's all bullshit.
It's not though. It's not though. Like we've made treaties and worked together with enemies many times in the past, and honestly, I view like. So I don't think we're doing it right at the moment. Now, like things are really serious between the governments of Russia and the United States. But for years past, especially while we didn't have the shuttle program anymore, we were kind of hitching a ride on the Russian space program's things. I actually think
just lost the technology. I know.
That's, at least in my opinion, like, that's a good thing. That's like an area of cooperation where we're not trying to kill each other. So, like, I don't have any problem with those things. I actually think that's good. And I think my understanding of that is, like, those are agencies that are more involved in, like, that niche thing, and they love that niche thing. So, like, they put aside whatever, like, beefs their governments have with each other, and they're willing to do it because those guys love space. Right, so like they don't give a shit, like whatever Putin and President Bush
fighting
don't
with
like.
Russia right now, and the Russian government has agreed to continue participation in the International Space Station at least until 2028. So we're still hanging out in the International Space Station.
All right, so what are they supposed to do? Throw the cosmonaut the fuck out of the door in space and kill him? Like, you know, again,
that's stupid, Skaggs. Why you even say that?
Yeah, I know, but that's what you're kind of insinuating, right? Like,
I'm not insinuating. I'm just insinuating that we're supposed to hate each other so much, but they're up there fucking.
Because people don't hate each other. States do, right? And
I know we talk about this all the time.
The astronauts are people who love space and want to go up there on these adventures, and like,
they have like-minded things. They have things
they don't give a fuck about whatever like their governments
That's how
are beefing
humanity,
about.
most of us are.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they still are working together in this regard.
And this is why we keep telling you the government's fucked, that we just need to get rid of them because they're the worst. They're the worst. Let's end on that. Government, the worst.
Yeah, sums it up perfectly. I'll let you sign us off here as I sign this in.
Oh, you're going to throw that at me? All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Samurais of Doom. Samurais of Doom, we'll call it.
All right, maybe. Yeah.
Yes. So, all right. But thanks for tuning in. Everybody in the X spaces, also formerly known as Twitter, thank you for tuning in tonight. Make sure you guys share on everything that you possibly can. We're available on all social media platforms. Also, you can check us out on Rumble. You guys are still on YouTube, correct?
We're on everything.
So, yeah, Sergeant and Sam definitely aren't. But check us out on there. Help us share. Help us beat the algorithms, guys. It's very, very important for you guys to help us because we're heavily shadow banned for speaking the truth. And obviously, we've been speaking the correct truth for almost a decade now. So as we've been proven once again. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We appreciate everybody sitting down and going through our seriousness and our goofiness. And we appreciate the conversation.
Yes. Join us next time on our We Were Right tour of 2024. We'll be back.
Ta-da.
Adios.
Later, kids.